Hi, I'm Brad Warren. This is Beyond the Event, a youth ministry podcast presented by Christ and Youth, where we help you maintain momentum between the mountaintops. Before we jump into today, one big thing that you got to know is the registration's open for now all of our events. Move, Mix, Superstar. If you want to go one of those places in 2025, you can jump on CIY.com, get registered for those events. Also, if you want to go on an Engage trip, that is a thing you can do. That registration has been open for a long time now. But we're going to talk about some ways that you could make that happen with my co-host today, Brittany Shoemake. Brittany, welcome.
Hey, Brad. Good to be here.
You know what's crazy that I was looking at earlier is that it's actually only been it's been a long time, but it has only been 2 episodes since you were last on the podcast.
That's funny to think about.
So you were like a very
season openers.
You were a very late guest for season 3, a very early guest for season 4. So glad you're here. Hey, how was your summer?
It was fantastic.
Yeah, you did a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'm thinking back to that episode now, and I was talking about the things that we were going to be doing in just a couple of months. And now it's been a couple months since those have happened. Yeah. So
Spain, and we talked a little bit about Spain last time.
Spain.
So how was that trip?
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, phenomenal. First time there with Team Expansion, who was there in Granada, and took a group from Florida that was with us.
I love Florida.
We know that.
I know.
But yeah, it was a great first run there, and I think the main thing that the students came back with from that trip is how much that missions is a lifestyle. And it's one of our principles that we talk about, but just getting to rub shoulders for a week with the team that's there, the missions team that's there, just got to see their day in and day out of what that looks like and what ministry is, and some really just practical ministry tools that those students came back with. So yeah, it was awesome. Got to see God doing some work and things that we can continue praying for. So it's a hard place.
I talked to some students who went on that trip because they were with me at Move, and one of their biggest takeaways was like how much prayer plays like such a central role in what Team Expansion is doing, and is like kind of they're holding on to God's coattails and really just following wherever he leads them. And I thought that was a really cool. I mean, if you're going to have anyone take away from a trip and you come back and you believe in the power of prayer and you have new like prayer habits that you've seen work and that you've adopted in your own life, that's a huge win.
Yeah, for real. And I mean, we were doing and learning new ways of prayer, and through prayer walking, through prayer experiences. It's the tool that they are using right now. And we often talk about prayer is the engine for mission. Mm-hmm. And so just knowing that the prayer walking that we were doing and the things that they were teaching us through some of their methods was really like helping to soften the soil for the work that they're doing.
Yeah. That's so cool. It was so fun catching them like when it was all fresh in their minds, right as they were coming back and hearing all these crazy stories about how much fun they were having. So also a mission that you have loved for a long time. When's the first time you went to RIOT?
First time I went to RIOT was in January of 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 10 years.
10 years.
Which is crazy. A decade now of you being able to partner with them. A mission that I've loved for less long time, but still a long time. Was our mission partner this year, which I thought was so cool. Getting to introduce people to Richie.
So sweet.
It was the best.
Yeah. I mean, they've been obviously partners with CIY for over 10 years now. Yeah. And so and we've had so many teams, over 40 teams, I think, in the last 10 years go over and get to partner with them. But then to get to share them with even so many more groups and churches and youth pastors, that's been a really sweet thing.
Yeah, it was so phenomenal. So cool. Okay, so I want to know this is going to be a difficult question for you.
Okay.
But I want to know what No, I'm not going to ask that question. That's an unfair question. But here's what I will ask.
It's going to be something about favorite.
It's kind of, but like we're not going to go there because I know you'll just be diplomatic and boring and not have a hot take.
Boring?
You wouldn't have a hot
Brad,
take. You wouldn't give us a hot take.
Boring people
All
are
right.
boring.
What's your favorite country that Engage travels to?
Oh, yeah. So I get this question asked a lot.
You're already caging.
Already.
You're already doing
have
it.
Favorites for different reasons.
They're all your favorites?
They're all my favorites in a lot of ways.
Okay.
But
all right.
yeah, there's the different cultural reasons that they're favorites, places that I've been to over time, so have a lot of good relationships. So that would be a favorite. There's like just the beauty of places and the scenery, and so there's those could be
Let's
favorites.
do that one.
So
what's the most beautiful place that Engage travels, you think?
It is Northern Ireland.
100%.
It is.
You're really,
it is.
really right.
So,
yeah.
Which is, also, it fits into a couple of those categories because it's one of the places I've been to the most as well of our locations. And so have really, really deep relationships there. So
we have, in part because of our relationship with RIOT that we developed to move this year. I was looking at it today. What do we have? We have like 8 or 9 trips going to Northern Ireland this year with Engage.
Yeah. Right now, over 9. And it's continuing to grow. So we have 6 during the summer. So 2025. But then we've added some more in the spring and in the fall, just for some other more private, customized type trips for groups too. And we're open to that year round.
Yeah.
So
like the move season is basically June 1st through July 31st. Let's pretend. Yeah. It's not those exact dates, but it's basically 2 months. The Engage season this year will run at least from mid-March.
January, actually.
Well, the January trip.
Yeah.
So from basically January 2nd or 3rd or whatever through the second week of October.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is insane.
That's what it's looking like. Yeah.
If you want to go on an Engage trip during literally any of those times, or the other couple of months that we left out, November and December on the table. I'm just going to go ahead and say that on your behalf. I know it's a different process for a youth pass. Like they can't just go on our website and register for an Engage trip. It's a different thing. Yeah. So like, what is it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Usually, it's starting with conversations. So we'll get an email, get something coming through our website, hey, Brad, you'll hand me a name of somebody that you talk to that is interested. But it starts with conversations of just learning, hey, what are you looking to get out of this as a youth pastor? And maybe some of them have been on other trips before. Some of them, this is their very first time to tap into what an international trip looks like. And so just gauging from those conversations, we help steer and direct and guide in the ways that are needed and necessary, and help figure out what's going to be the best type of trip for the group, best location, whether that time of year, cost. Like there's just a whole lot of different factors in there.
Yeah.
But we can help guide and steer that conversation. And so, going from there.
Okay. So reach out to Britt, if I get a hold of us, somebody can point you in the right direction. Literally, you can reach out to any CIY platform, social media, email, whatever you want to do. We'll get you in the right place. One of my favorite things about mission trips, though, is before we do the mailbag, is just they are the places where the most hilarious and insane stories happen. And this would not be a good podcast if we didn't tell just a couple of those stories. So how many trips did you go on this year? I
went on 3.
So you went to Honduras.
Went to Honduras
with producer Lauren.
That's right.
You went to
Spain. And then I was in Northern Ireland at RIOT during the spring.
Northern Ireland at RIOT in the spring.
That's right.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
So what insane things happened that wouldn't happen anywhere else in the world?
What insane things happened? Wouldn't happen
just give us a couple of good
well,
lucrative.
This was actually insane.
Okay.
During the Honduras trip, they were having abnormal amounts of rain than any time. So it's a rainy season, but usually, there's some rain that will come in through the afternoon. But I think it literally rained the whole time we were there, from getting picked up at the airport. Started raining on the way back to the mission house. We had people in the backs of trucks putting tarps over, try to stay dry, try to keep the luggage dry.
Amazing.
And then literally got rain throughout the whole week until we were getting dropped back off at the airport on the way home.
That's tough.
But I'm saying that we got to experience a Honduras that most people never get to experience. So, and I mean, we're still able to do the things that we were planning on doing there.
Yeah.
Change a couple things in the schedule, but fortunately, there's a lot of inside things happening. So it worked out. It was fine. But hey, got to experience a different part of or a different season of Honduras.
I love it. That's amazing. So nobody broke any limbs. Nobody did anything crazy. Nobody
There was
nobody had any.
We're not wishing for that to happen, Brad. You know.
I know we're not wishing for that to happen. I'm just saying sometimes students get out of the country and they change. For the better.
This is true.
You know?
So, yeah.
You know, I mean, one time you were on this podcast and you told a story about somebody throwing up in a trash can at the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
So that's really the kind of thing that I'm looking for here. Am I not going to get another one of those out of you?
Year after year.
Okay, fair enough.
But people do get a little more brave when they're overseas of trying
which is great.
Different things, which is great. We had some guys that found some mangoes on the ground and they were like, no, it's probably not a good idea to eat them. And turns out, we find out later, they sure did open them right off the ground. It had been raining and took some bites of some mango that probably didn't come out in the best ways. We'll just say that.
Yikes. Okay, well.
So if you wanted your poop story,
that's it.
You can
got it. Okay, we can move on now. Okay, that's great. I love it. In all seriousness, though, Engage trips are like the best thing. Engage. We say that we train students for a life of kingdom work, and it's super cool. Yeah. It's super cool what happens when you get students in another place that they're a little uncomfortable with. On that note, Michael. Hello,
Brad. Hello, Brett.
Hi, Michael.
It's time for the mailbag.
It is time for the mailbag.
Michael's got some questions for us to answer.
I do. I think this question from Nathan Anderson is a pretty interesting question.
Nathan Anderson.
Oh, man.
Trip leader for CIY Engage.
Wow.
True.
Former trip participant.
Was on a trip with his
CIY
group,
Engage.
Last summer. 2 summers ago now.
2 summers ago.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I think for people who are world travelers, this question, I'm curious what they would say.
Okay.
Nathan wants to know, how many times do you click snooze on your alarm?
Oh, that's a good question.
It says a lot about a person, honestly.
Yeah. It is usually once.
You click it. You snooze once. So your alarm goes off twice.
Yeah. So I set my alarm intentionally 9 minutes earlier than what I want to get up because I know I'm going to hit the snooze once.
Amazing.
So
even when you have to get up for like a 5 a.m. flight?
Oh, I usually don't snooze at that point.
Okay.
Because I'm usually awake.
It's go time.
Yeah. Those are the nights when you have to get up, catch a flight, go somewhere that I really don't sleep great those nights.
Yeah.
So I'm awake already. So once that alarm goes off.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Are you good at going to bed at a decent time the night before you travel?
No.
Okay. I'm not either. I'm
terrible.
I count on I don't sleep before I have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a bad habit.
But I can sleep on airplanes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I factor that into the sleep schedule as well.
It's a formula.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, I would rather be sleeping in my bed, but knowing that I have flights the next day, I'll sleep on an airplane.
I'm a 0 snooze guy.
0.
Set the alarm. I'll wake up. Ready to go.
Look at you.
Not ready to go, but I don't press snooze.
Yeah.
So that's a weird thing about me.
And just one alarm?
One alarm. Well, when tomorrow morning, I have to leave my house at 4 o'clock in the morning to catch a 6 a.m. flight.
Gross.
And I will set like a 3:25, a 3:28, a 3:30, a 3:31 alarm. Just like make extra sure. But here's the thing. I never need them. I never actually end up
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I do that.
But it's like, I need a safety net here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
also,
in case.
I am not a person that has ever slept through an alarm. Like, I know there's people who will set multiple or set different sounds. That's never been my issue. So I will wake up to any of those noises.
I'm a pretty light sleeper.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Yeah. Never slept through an alarm.
There you go.
Maybe have done the like whole AM PM.
Yeah.
Mishap there.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times.
I one time missed an alarm. I don't know if it was because I slept through it or if it's because I did that thing where as soon as I turned it off, I immediately fell back asleep without meaning to. But one time missed my alarm the morning that I was supposed to leave for a Superstart trip and woke up to my doorbell ringing because both of our vehicles decided to come to my house to pick me up.
Amazing.
And that is probably some of the fastest that I've ever like gotten myself ready to walk out the door.
Well, yeah, I would say so.
And I just
waiting
had a heavy weight on my head and on my shoulders for the rest of the day.
Yep. You never recover from that kind of thing is the thing.
No.
Like you feel that all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Terrible way to start your day.
So sorry for that.
We have a question from Flint Spencer. And Flint wants to know, what is encouraging to you that you've seen in the church lately?
Aw.
Oh,
That's endearing.
love encouragement questions.
I know.
And Britt, you see a lot of the church.
See a lot of the church around the world. So true. So true. I think I have been encouraged by this draw to authenticity in the church. And I see that in conversations around the world of these authentic believers, authentic faith, and getting back to just this is real life. We're not putting on a show. God's not looking for a performance out of anybody. He's wanting our hearts. And I've got to see that and been a part of those conversations. So that's been encouraging. This draw to authenticity,
especially among young people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are really leaning into that. It's like they don't want the manicured answers and the
see right
totally.
through it. See right through it.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
I am going to answer this question because I usually end up answering them all, which is maybe my red flag. I don't know. But the one thing I've been encouraged by in the church is just our home church.
Yeah.
Christ Church of Oronogo has been doing some really cool things lately. I was at a D group retreat all weekend with Flint Spencer. Watching that guy pastor junior high students is amazing. So he crushes it at that. And then we did like this incredible food drive recently, and I'm hearing all these different ways that people are getting connected. They have things for like single moms and moms connection, and they do a bunch with the foster care system. And it's like, man, our church is out there just being the church.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
And I know churches all over the country are.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like the lens that I see that through.
Yep.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like following my church on social media, and every time they post a story, I click on it and I'm like, oh, yes, an awesome thing.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's something to it with the growth that's been happening too, of trying to figure out space issues and trying to ask people to maybe come to a different service to make space for somebody else. And I think
amazing.
It's encouraging. Yeah. Really.
Speaking of space issues, I read an article the other day about how the people in the International Space Station vote in U.S. elections.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Interesting.
I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to give it away.
Something I've ever thought about.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of
I
space
haven't thought
issue.
about it either.
Different space issue. Well, yeah.
She said space issue, and I was immediately
It is a space issue. Yeah. It's a completely different kind.
Yeah. Those are not the space issues that Christ Church of Oronogo
was
is
gonna say,
dealing
that's
with,
not
as a
what
matter
I'm
of fact.
thinking.
Yeah. But anyway, I'll let other people put two and two together on the actual type of space issues that we're dealing with. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's good. Michael, thank you. As always, an excellent moderator for the mailbag portion of this segment. I'm excited, Brittany, today to talk to Richie Shilliday.
Yes.
So a lot of people got to meet Richie at Move, like we already talked about, and Mix.
That's right. Yeah.
And he is just one of one. Richie is in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to get to chat with him. So you want to go chat with Richie?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Richie Shilliday, welcome. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Brad. I'm doing really well.
Good.
Enjoying a little stroll through the forest around Ballyhinch Rugby Club as we've just taken Addy to training. Thanks for being patient with me, guys.
Yeah, of course. I will say that nobody who has ever been on this podcast has ever had as beautiful of a backdrop on their video as you have right now. So you win the award for that. I don't know what the prize is, but yeah, that's good. So hey, you took a group.
See you.
Yeah, you should come over here and see me. Hey, you took a group of students to move this year, right?
Aiden actually took our group down to move.
Aiden took your group down to move.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that a lot of the youth pastors that patronize this podcast will have had a similar experience to what your group had over in Ireland. But a lot of people got to meet you this summer, Richie. We had RIOT as our mission partner. It was really cool at both Move and Mix to watch people kind of get to know what you do at RIOT and get to know you a little bit. And so we just kind of wanted to catch up, talk to you, give the people a little behind the veil look at who Richie Shilliday really is. So, but not too far behind the veil, okay?
Yeah, that's could be a little scary.
Yeah,
It can be dangerous.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So yeah, what was your? I want to know what your experience was like being the Move mission partner. Like, how was that whole thing for you?
So yeah, when the idea was introduced, I honestly was a little, or a whole lot. No, we're not a big fancy organization. We're just this wee project, just in a tiny little village in Northern Ireland that's trying to love our young people and trying to care for our community, be the hands and feet, in a town that has one small wee planted church, and we're just trying to do a very simple thing of bringing Jesus in a very normal way into people's lives. So to be asked to be a mission partner for a huge, big American, wonderful mission organization was like, no, we can't do that. That doesn't kind of make sense. There's got to be, and it's not a false humility, I'll say. It's a very honest assessment. There's got to be much more better, suitable, deserving people. So to be asked and to be a mission partner of CIY is an incredible blessing and gift. And we're very, very honored to have been able to be that partner and for CIY to take so much care and love and to tell people about us. It's humbling. But at the same time, it's just wonderful to be able to share the goodness of God and what He's doing in our little project and the lives that He's transforming through hopefully just loving people.
Yeah. So one of the stories that didn't get told this summer that I think is just a really, really incredible story that I want to kind of talk about a little bit is actually Aiden's story. So people got to meet Aiden, which is cool. He was in some of the videos and did a little bit of the kind of narration of a few of the stories and that kind of thing. But we didn't get to actually tell his like journey to RIOT and what his history kind of looked like and all of that kind of stuff. So I want to just kind of like dive into that a little bit if we can. I love that family so much. Love Finbar and Minigan, Aiden, great crew. So tell me first of all, who is Aiden to you? Like, what is his role at the organization?
So Aiden, just this month, the committee and I met, and I've been asking Aiden for, I don't know, a couple of years now to come on staff to really consider being more than just a volunteer and a supporter of Riot, as he is growing up with Riot and is honestly like the Riot prodigy, if you will, of my heart of how to reach people. And in Northern Ireland, there's this lovely divide, not very lovely really, but Protestant and Catholic. So Aidan comes from a Catholic background and is very proud of that heritage and culture. And the Lord has used me with Aidan and a community around us to help distinguish a little difference in what it looks like to be a Protestant Catholic in modern Christianity. And it's not about this religion of attending and going to church, but more importantly, getting to know who Jesus is and trying to journey out daily what it looks like to be a follower and have a walking, talking, normal, everyday relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
So I got to go back to maybe when Aidan's 11 or 12 after. Right, but sorry. So if I go back to
hold on, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. One thing that the people have to know about you, about Richie Shilliday, is that you're basically the mayor of Dundrum, the chancellor of County Down. I know. Well, it doesn't make a difference. The whole county, the whole country of Northern Ireland. Everybody knows Richie, so he's on a walk right now. He's going to be saying hi to people. That's okay. It's just going to happen.
So the beauty of doing what I do, I've got involved in sport and lots of ways to reach people, right? So this is the Ballinks Rugby Club, a really big, great organisation that the Lord's led me into coaching. So I coach with the minis and my kids play here. So my heart for people and introduce who I am because of what Jesus has done. I straight away got involved in coaching and helping. So Addie's group I helped with for a while, and I now coach with Harrison in the primary 5 age group. So I know a lot of the coaches and the parents because their kids have now come to RIOT because, well, some of them already knew about RIOT, but a lot, once they met me, I tell them about RIOT, what I'm doing, and so they come along. So it's really neat.
Yeah, it's a good bridge.
Really neat. But back to Aidan, right?
Yeah. So, how old was he when you met him?
Probably 11 or 12. Yeah. And he's like you guys have met.
Yeah.
Many little 14, kind of punk kid, right?
14, 15 years ago, I think.
Yeah. So he's just a normal Irish kid trying to figure things out. He has been talked into going to church or mass, maybe, is a more appropriate term, to part of his schooling and part of just the religion you should attend these things. But Aidan is a thinker, and Aidan is always questioning what's the big picture. And as he was doing that, of course, he was influenced by some people and made some dodgy choices, and kind of came to RIOT, like making some bad things. I got to figure this religion thing out. Tell me more. So Aidan was always super inquisitive about his faith journey. From honestly 12, 13 years old, there was a good maturity about him. But there's a really neat incident that happened. I think he was 13, and the kids are pretty rough still at this point of RIOT. It's a fresh project. We're introducing these like street kids into some sort of discipline structure and trying to share what faith is to us, not a church religion. And so he's in the bathroom messing around, and I don't know how, but he sits on the sink and he rips the sink off the wall. Right now, just imagine the water goes everywhere.
Oh,
right?
no.
Water pouring everywhere, and he comes down in a panic. I've broke the sink. I promise I just sit on it. I'm really sorry. I'm like, what the heck? Okay. I run up and I see it, and I'm like, oh wow, gotta go turn the water off because it's drowning the place. So I turn the water off. I'm like, dude, what happened? And he's like, I just sat on it, like fell off the wall. I'm like, all right, it's okay. And honestly, and now as I think at it, my normal reaction is like a little so-and-so's vandalizing. But the Lord gave me patience in that moment. And I was able to say to him, don't worry about it. Absolutely fine. We'll get it fixed. So I turned it off. We were able to turn it off, stop the water. I got a couple of stop ends disconnected it. So with no problems, turned the water back on. And he's like, years later, he's like, Richie, it just made no sense to me, the grace that you showed me in that moment. Like anywhere else in my life that I did something stupid or wrong, I got like in trouble and told off and people were cross. And I giggled because I'm like, well, that would have been me normally. But thankfully in that moment, still me normally. Thankfully in that moment, the Lord was all over it. And somehow in the spirit in me, there was grace. And it was like he said, that struck to him. If that's what a Christian's like, then I want to know more about that. So that kind of connected. We had mission teams come over and share stories. And as Aidan shares his story now, he always mentions that as the teams talked and shared stories, that intrigued him about the goodness of God and had started to impact his life. So the little testimonies that we work on with teams and sharing what God's doing in your life, that's really impactful to young people searching and looking for God. So he goes deeper himself and he's looking online for different things. He starts seeing some of these guys who are doing miracles and healing and different stuff, and he keeps coming back and asking questions, and causes me then to go read scripture, and him and I sit and read through stuff and work together. So this goes on for a few years until he comes back one night and he's like, Richie, I've kind of like got to this point where I've asked God, I can't go on anymore. I need Jesus in my life. And I've kind of like, Jesus, come in. And I'm like, you what? He's like, yeah, I guess I asked Jesus into my life and that I know I need him as my personal savior. And I'm like, dude, you've just like become a Christian. And he's like, oh crap, what does that mean? I'm like, what do you mean? What does that mean? He's like, am I a Protestant? I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's
so I had to, so I had to explain to him, like, no, this is way bigger. Like, there's no Protestant Catholic in Scripture. Like, this is a relationship with Jesus that supersedes the silliness in our wee country and what's going on. So I'm like, you can tell people, like, you love Jesus, and this doesn't matter about the religion in our country. So that's all good. He tells his mom and dad, and his mom is like, oh no, like, does that mean he's a Protestant? So I have to go and meet up with Finbar and Mary and be like, no, that means nothing, Mary. He is still your Catholic boy, just that he loves and knows Jesus.
Yeah.
And so that's got to be sort of when he's 14 or 15, I think. So it's taken, a few years to get to that journey with him. But the Lord got a grip of his heart, of this beautiful heart that wanted to know. And as most of you maybe have heard, he goes on to meet a lovely American girl who came on a CIY team.
That's right.
That does not mean if you come here, right?
Yeah, something about our program being called Engage. I don't know what that has to do with it, but no, so Corey was on our very first student trip in 2015, the January trip. She was on that one.
So they met, and I was honestly really tough on those guys because Corey didn't come back in the summer, and like there's kind of a no dating rule, and they were really good with that. And I even wouldn't let talk for a month. I say that I didn't let them. I asked them to be respectful and to leave it for a month. That if there was anything going on, let the Lord work in it. I think that was actually the second time she had come back, but the Lord used that relationship in a beautiful way to draw them both close to him and then in their relationship together. So they got married, they spent a couple of years on mission, And as he has returned back to Northern Ireland, I got him working part-time with RIOT. Just in the last month, he's now full-time, signed up. So I'm going to retire and live happily ever after.
You better not.
He's never coming out of the woods.
Well, anybody who knows me
Yeah,
knows
no, that's not happening. Yeah.
Richie will never retire,
Yeah. You'll die with a shovel in your hand, won't you?
Yeah. But the Lord is definitely changing my heart to help to hand over a lot more youth work to him as I support him in the next few years. And the Lord is opening doors in community in different ways that I think the village will need, our community needs, and even direction of how RIOT will look to serve and love our community more.
Yeah. So I want to lean in on the stories thing that you talked about. Because every student who comes on a CIY Engage trip to RIOT at some point stands up and has 3 minutes to share their story with a group of young people that come to RIOT. And Brittany, I know that you've watched this happen
so many times,
dozens and dozens of times, hundreds of times maybe. And it really, there's something about the American experience that like makes that hard for students. And I don't know what that is, but it's like difficult for them. And then they come over and.
But yeah, there's the part of it that Richie is so good and gifted about. It's not just, hey, have every student prepare their story and then they're going to share it. Like we take time, and Richie, like you guide this process so well, and the pastor heart in you of how a student can tell the story to a kid at RIOT, so in a completely different cultural context, but share a piece of their story that connects to the gospel. It's not the student's story all about themselves, but Richie, how you guide that to point to the main character, which is God, and knowing him for you, what, like, you set that up, put the ball on the tee, and let God do with it what he wants. And so how you guide that is really good.
And honestly, like everything as you do ministry, and this is like come on close to 30 years maybe of me doing youth work, and 25 or something of doing youth ministry. And as we've walked through that, there was a season when I felt like the ministry that I was doing was using mission teams coming in and not doing ministry very well, honestly. Of a mission team would come in to serve and love, and I almost stood back and applauded and said, "Great job, well done, thanks." And the feedback I got after a season or two was like, it was really good, we loved the teams, but there just wasn't connection. And our young people, or the outreach that you did, they fell away within weeks. And so I'm like, okay, how do we change this from being a short-term trip that makes an impact but doesn't have that lasting impact that we want? And people deserve to have time to figure out who this Jesus is. And that's where RIOT, honestly, and God sort of developed that vision of RIOT, that we would build a project to pour into community, and the mission teams would supplement and benefit from it. The key for me is helping people understand who they are in Christ. All right, our story is one of the most powerful things that we can share and get across to someone. So to understand that, and what Jesus has done in your life, or an example, or a symptom, or not a symptom, a moment where you can hold on to something tangible that I know God's real and he's moved in my life because of this, of how you articulate and how you share that with someone is so really vitally important. Now, there was a team, I think 2 or 3, maybe more. I'm getting old, people, I'm sorry. It could be 4 or 5 years ago. And the team was made up of a couple of different groups who wanted to go, and this is CIY, they wanted to go to Honduras, they wanted to go to Haiti, and those trips fell through, and they all had to come to RIOT. And as we talk through stories and the heart of listening, the heart of caring about the person in front of you and how to share a little bit of Jesus and trust that maybe a few words or trust that a minute of what God had done in your life was impactful. These guys were explaining to me that was so scary and worrying to them, right? And I'm like, that's really hard. And I almost had forgotten, in a way, being older, that it becomes easier to talk. But as a young person, the thought of teaching a sermon or standing up in front is still quite scary, right? And what I wanted to tell these people was, this is a gift from God. This is an opportunity where you just get to plant a seed in somebody's life and trust God that He is already working and that He will continue to work. But we need to be faithful in telling the goodness of God in our lives. So they were like, okay, that's a different thought than what we had, of having to just get up and share this timeline from when I was young and what it goes through. And I'm like, yeah, that honestly, there's a point of that in our growth of faith. But when you're trying to share to people who don't quite know what Jesus is or where faith is or what religion looks like, to make it real and personal and something that they can make sense of was really beneficial. So honestly, organically, as you walk with this and God kind of led and guided, all of these pieces started to fall in of how we need to own our own story. And honestly, the teams often, and this is CIY and other church groups, often they haven't had opportunity to share their faith or seen the need for that. And so I hope this crazy Irish guy, that need and that love of Father's heart, that Jesus died for us all.
Yeah.
He wants everyone to know. He loves us so much that actually we have a responsibility as being gifted of knowing Christ to share that in a way that is relatable to the people around us. So I hope, and what that experience of that team that were so worried and they didn't want to come to RIOT because they thought they would have to stand up and share. All right. And I was like, that's a terrible reason not to come. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not. So I hope we've taken the fear out of that actually this is a good experience to journey with what do I believe and what is it that God's done in my life and how do I actually begin to think and process. And then you get to share a couple of minutes of God's goodness. So Brittany's right. Like we've tried to do that in a way that is supportive, encouraging, and everybody is able to do it. And like there's hundreds probably of stories where people have struggled and then they've got through it. And from healing and prayer that we've been able to do with teams until reaching and like touching hearts of kids that hear their stories. It's just incredible. And how God uses it, I don't understand or comprehend. I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. It's every time this verse always pops into my head when I think of you, from Revelation, talking about how people who are oppressed by the evil one overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And I always think that's such a fascinating little verse. It's like that those two things are mentioned hand in hand. That like you have Jesus' blood and you have your story, and that's what you've got, And I think you kind of lean into that in a really, really special way. Yeah. My favorite thing about it is kind of funny is the 3 minutes piece. Because that people, if you're like, tell your story, it's like, well, I was born on September 29th, 1990. And then they want to recount every day since. And it's like, no, you when you're talking to somebody, you got like 90 seconds to capture their attention. And you always talk about like leaving them wanting more. And even the way that you talk about like the strategy of telling your story and how you do that and how you craft it, I think is really cool.
Well, everybody's so from Brad, right? Everyone, you meet people, there's like 100 different aspects to people and different topics you can talk to. So you have to be like I don't just have one approach that I'm going to try and share with everybody. Like, God has worked with me in a million ways. And if I think about the ways God has helped and corrected and shown grace and been kind to me, I'd never run out of things to say, because I've made every mistake. And God has been so kind and let go of, things that I've done and said and spoken to people. And it's just incredible to realize He can use all of that to build up His family. And people need to know, even though I made a mistake, God's still going to use me. He still loves me. He still wants me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I love that people have gotten to get kind of an insight into all of that. And I want to make sure, I want to be respectful of your time. And I want to make sure that we hit on one other thing for a little bit before we let you go. And that is our initiative at Move this summer had to do with this little property that I love up on the hill in Dundrum there. And hopefully giving, the Lord is going to give you an opportunity to purchase that property so that you can continue to do more things with it. Right now, what all is out there?
Yeah.
There's like
the youth center, there's the house, there's
a football field,
football pitch, there's swing set, play park,
a
garden.
Community garden.
Yeah. And the food bank and library.
Yes.
Yep.
So if you were able to purchase that property, which I'm believing that you're going to be able to do that, what's your dream for it? Like, what's next?
So if I'm listening and hearing the Lord right, the committee or the RADS committee, who I'm so fortunate to have a group of people who pray and consider my craziness as I ask God for big things. I think there's already been people put in place for a cafe and a way to serve and love our community, as a meeting house and a place that a place of peace, honestly, is what I think. So I said cafe, but it's a meeting place where coffee and whatever treats and stuff are served. But there's already people that God has introduced me to in the last 6 months that I'm like, yeah, I can see that person. There's a need for them, but it would help them to be involved in this and give them a role and a job within that. So prayer-wise, I've been... You people, you know me, I'm not very patient. I have been more patient maybe about this than anything in my life. Of not phoning, not writing, and asking questions about when can RIOT move and what to do. I've really been waiting on the Lord for the next step. So now the incredible donation and support from you guys, we can kind of go and ask. After we're going to meet with a committee and say, look, how do we go to a Methodist church and say, what can we do to help this process?
Which the Methodist church, for the people listening, the Methodist church is who currently owns the property that you're leasing it from. Yeah.
So how do we take these next steps and what's the requirements? The heart has always been to honor and respect the church and the heritage. A place was built in the 1880s, and they have cared and ministered up until COVID when the church closed. So we want to be respectful of that. And I love the heart of the Methodist that was about caring for people in the community. And so they have always kind of said, whenever we make decisions, we will be the first people to come to. So we don't need it to, but my patience is getting to that point where I would like them to come and meet with me and say, hey, we'd like to think about you guys taking this over. We're going to sell it to you. And I'm am I being foolish and expecting God just to do all of that without me pursuing it, or trying to figure out, do I need to pursue it? And that's part of this faith journey.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good.
So I've been listening to the committee on it and really trying to be sensitive and careful. Very unlike me, honestly.
Well, I think it's cool that this conversation kind of went to this place, because a lot of people feel after move very invested in the ministry of RIOT emotionally. I think they really connected with with what you do and what you've been faithfully doing for many years. So anybody watching or listening here wants to continue to partner with you in prayer. It sounds like that's a pretty big thing that we could be praying for is some discernment among your director or your board, and just for those conversations with the Methodist Church, which we will be doing for sure.
Thank you. That's key. So that on a short term, I got to go and build a greenhouse. We have a 3 by 8 meter greenhouse to build. So I got to get my digging tools out and get a little foundation build and get that all set up in place for the coming season, and when I can get some things planted and connect some, our hope and that is to connect some older generation with some young generation and share some advice and skills. And by spending time, relationship with that, just open the door for Jesus to do what Jesus does.
Yep. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And I can't go without saying this. Like, you're talking about RIOT being a place of peace and a place for the community. Like, that already exists. That is already true of that space, and just the uniqueness of where you guys are located in Dundrum and this community hub. But I mean, it excites me just knowing the potential of God to do even more when there's some facilities that can actually accommodate more people and what that can look like. So it's just seeing how God's going to work that out for you, and we're praying for that as well.
Yeah. I was just as you said about, we're ready peace and ready doing things for the community. I've seen a kid in the distance, and one of the rugby shirts says RIOT Revival in our town now, because we sponsored some shirts for the Aries group last year. And so I'm just like, God, I'm just reminded of your goodness as the kids running here wearing a red shirt.
Well, we love you, Richie. We're excited for what God's going to continue to do through your ministry. It is not cold here yet, but as soon as it gets cold, the first beanie that comes out is my Dundrum Cricket Club beanie. So I'm always encouraged to talk to you, brother.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, guys. Bless you. Thank you. Hopefully you could understand me, everybody.
That remains to be seen. We'll slow it down a little bit and see if maybe that helps. So,
hey, you're talking about things that are passionate to my heart, so I'm sorry if I got excited in there.
I understood you, so I was encouraged.
So
but
good.
Anyway,
thanks, Richie.
It's good to see you, buddy.
God bless.
Bye. Bye. Richie Shilliday is, I don't know if I said this on mic or off, but he is like a one of one person. There really is nobody like him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody has ever come on this podcast and been as just like transparent, vulnerable as he is. Like, this isn't me. This is how God is working in my life. He's always so good about that stuff.
Yeah, he is. And not afraid to talk about the shortcomings or the things that he's working through in his own faith and his own walk as well. It's a great guy. I mean, the authenticity that we talked about is something that is so real and tangible, and you feel that in talking with him as well.
And I don't want this to be like commercially. I really don't. But at the same time, it's like, I want every high school student to go and interact with that man for a week. Truly. There's not, Yeah, it's just incredible what he's able to like stir up in people. And what we didn't talk about was like he goes through this whole process of teaching students how to tell their stories.
Mm-hmm.
That is a tool.
Yeah.
Like that they can like there's no translation that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no.
You bring that back with you and you can use that absolutely any room you walk into right here in the
Yep.
United States.
Yep. And that's exactly what he talks through as well. And when we're talking about this isn't just for this one-time moment or 3 minutes of sharing with the kids at RIOT. This is, the tool that God's given you for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
so
it's incredible.
And it's something I've been saying this as well, and I've said it to him other times. He keeps talking about we're just this wee project in this wee village. But I mean, the impact of that ministry has gone so well beyond
it's enormous.
The borders of even the country of Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
You think of how many hundreds of people, and we don't even know like how God has used people's stories and the ripple effects that have happened. And but well beyond the walls of RIOT has God used that ministry. And I'm a firsthand have that firsthand experience to say that and have seen how kids in the U.S. have been transformed by the ministry there and how God's using that. So
there is an aspect to it though
so
when he
bigger.
calls it a we project. It also is. You know what I mean?
No, it is.
Like when you go and visit the property, it is like, I mean, every youth room of every youth pastor listening to this conversation is 10 times nicer than the youth center at RIOT. You know what I mean? It's like an old building that they don't have enough space, a bunch of hand-me-down couches, and a projector that they put words up on a screen with. And like he's been able to use that to do all of that impact that you're talking about, which is just a gift from the Lord. Like it's so incredible. Anyway. Well, that was a great conversation, really encouraging for me. Thanks for being here, Britt. I am going to have you close us out by reading that little blessing there.
Yeah, I would love to. May God show you grace and bless you. May he make his face shine on you. May you experience the love of Christ, through whom God gives you fullness of life. May you be strengthened by his power. May Christ himself make his home in your heart, that you would be full of his love and grace, and that those you serve would see Jesus in you.
Today's episode was produced by Michael Hester, Lauren Bryan, and myself. Thanks to Richie. Thanks to Brittany. It was incredible having both of you here. And thank you for watching or listening. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to or watch your podcasts. We'll be back in a couple weeks. In the meantime, you can reach out to us on the CIY Community Facebook group or by email at podcast@ciy.com. See you next time.